There's a Jordan. Oh, by Michael Jordan.
What would make the greatest basketball player in the world walk away from the game at his absolute peak? How does someone who dominated every opponent suddenly disappear? Not from injury, not from scandal, but by choice. And could it all be tied to a single devastating moment? The murder of his father. When Michael Jordan's dad was killed in 1993, the world expected grief. But no one expected what Jordan did next. Not the league, not his fans, not even his teammates. Before we go deeper into this story, don't forget to subscribe to Isaac where we explore the untold chapters of greatness that most people overlook. Michael Jordan had just completed one of the most dominant three-year stretches in sports history. The Chicago Bulls were a dynasty, his Air Jordan brand was redefining marketing, and his image was spotless. But then, in July of 1993, James Jordan disappeared. For weeks, no one could find him. And when they did, the news was horrifying. His body was discovered in a creek in South Carolina, his car abandoned miles away, the result of a senseless murder by two teenagers. It wasn't just a crime, it was the emotional earthquake that would collapse everything Jordan had built around his identity. The NBA tried to continue business as usual, but Michael wasn't the same. He played the start of the 1993-94 season, but his smile was gone. His fire was buried under layers of grief and confusion. And then, without warning, he announced his retirement. No farewell tour, no injury, no long explanation, just gone. The man who once said he would play until his body broke simply walked away. Why? Because without his father, basketball didn't mean the same thing anymore. James Jordan had always told his son he could be great at anything. So Michael chose something else. Baseball. It sounded like a joke. The greatest basketball player of all time was going to ride buses across the minor leagues in Birmingham, Alabama? But that's exactly what he did. Jordan joined the Chicago White Sox's Double-A affiliate. He wasn't chasing fame. He already had that. He wasn't chasing money. He had more than enough. He was chasing peace. Baseball had been his father's dream. It was their connection before basketball became everything. And now, in the silence of dugouts and locker rooms far from the NBA spotlight, Michael was trying to reconnect with something lost. Critics mocked him. The media tore him apart. They called it a publicity stunt, a distraction, even a breakdown. But those close to Jordan knew better. This wasn't about attention. It was about healing. Every swing, every strikeout, every early morning practice was Michael's way of mourning. He knew he'd never be great at baseball. But that wasn't the point. It gave him baseball, gave him purpose when the game he once loved suddenly felt empty. Every swing of the bat wasn't about getting a hit, it was about finding clarity. Every early morning on the practice field wasn't about becoming a star. It was about creating silence in a life that had become deafening. Jordan wasn't just running from the spotlight. He was running towards something that felt real, something that reminded him of who he was before the world turned him into a brand. What's shocking is not that Jordan left basketball. What's shocking is how long he stayed away and how much he was willing to lose just to feel whole again. He walked away from a league where he was untouchable. He gave up a fourth ring, a guaranteed MVP, and the chance to build a dynasty even more untouchable than the one he already created. Most stars in his position would have clung to the fame, chased more records, and stayed at the top as long as possible. But Jordan walked into obscurity, into a game he hadn't played competitively since high school. And he started from scratch. He didn't ask for special treatment. He didn't demand privileges. He rode the bus with the team, showed up for every practice, and faced the brutal reality of not being great at something. There were no screaming fans in those small stadiums, no cameras waiting outside. Just Michael Jordan, the rookie baseball player, trying to hit a curveball, trying to outrun the shadows of who he used to be. And through it all, he never once complained. Not about the failures, not about the embarrassment, not about the critics who called him a joke. He just kept showing up. He was chasing more than a dream. He was chasing his father's voice, the one that always told him he could do anything. Baseball wasn't a stunt. It was a tribute to the man who taught him how to compete, how to believe in himself, and how to keep moving, even when the world says stop. That year in the minor leagues wasn't a detour, it was a pilgrimage. And when he finally came back to the NBA in 1995, it wasn't about reclaiming a crown. It was about reclaiming his love for the game. His return came in just 2 words: I'm back. No drama, no build-up, just certainty. But this time, Jordan wasn't just playing to win, he was playing to heal. The pain of loss never left him. It lived inside every drive, every fadeaway, every moment he laced up his sneakers. That pain didn't weaken him. It sharpened him. It gave him focus. He wasn't just chasing championships. He was honoring a memory, carrying his father's legacy onto every court he stepped on. And then, he did the unthinkable. Again, another three-peat. 3 more championships, 3 more years of dominance. But this version of Michael Jordan was different. He wasn't just cold and calculated. He was deeper, more human. You could see it in his eyes after every win, not just satisfaction, but something almost sacred. Every trophy became a conversation with someone who was no longer there. Every victory was a thank you to the man who never got to see his son's full greatness. Michael Jordan's decision after his father's death wasn't weakness. It was something far more powerful. It was human. It was raw. It was real. In a world that expected him to keep performing like a machine, he chose instead to be a son first. He didn't run from grief. He sat with it, faced it, let it remake him. And in doing so, he reminded everyone watching that greatness isn't just about domination, it's about resilience. The kind of resilience that can walk away from glory to find peace, and still return to rewrite history all over again. If this story gave you a new perspective on Michael Jordan's legacy, don't forget to subscribe to Isaac Ware for more powerful stories of drive, loss, and comebacks you won't hear anywhere else. Because true greatness doesn't just come from winning. It comes from surviving what nearly breaks you.